Hey, what's going on everyone? Welp and WebSnapper here. This time a shorter video, nonetheless, hope it's still helpful. I figured I get lots of comments about how I pose my figures and put them on the shelves, so I figured I spend a short video dedicated to how I go through the creative process. So I hope you guys enjoy, find it helpful, and as always, please enjoy. I thought the best way to go about doing this video would be to start with a character I'm pretty unfamiliar with. And in this case, it's Bishop. Now, he's a really important character for the Marvel Legends line. Nope, I meant X-Men universe. But I don't know a lot about him. So I'm going to show you guys and walk you through how I get from being unfamiliar with the character to understanding him and being able to put him in a good pose. One of the first things that I like to do is go to my Pinterest account. And of course, I always have the links in my descriptions. And I have a very, very big catalog of comic book characters. And everything is very organized. Any comic book art reference is found. And I like to just go through and just see how characters are typically posed in their profiles. And just seeing how artists typically depict them. And so I also will look them up on Pinterest as well. It just feels like it's just a way to save images. I know you can easily go to Google, but it's a way that you save them for future reference. And I find this has been incredibly helpful for me, as I use this tool quite often whenever I get a new figure and I'm not familiar with the character. I also Google searched and really liked that pose, so I'm going to try and recreate it. Got out some of the accessories that I think I will want to use on Bishop. I don't know if all of these are applicable, but it's still nice to have different options and to make the figure pop in a really cool way, and accessories and effects are the way to go. So yeah, these are the ones that I'll be experimenting with Bishop. So here we have one of my first poses I've done, and I've tried to utilize different effects and accessories to kind of make him pop. This is my first pose, and one of the things that I noticed, and I'm going to start moving forward, show me actually posing the figure in a sped up style. But there, like, I figured out which angle is it meant to be looked at, right? And I kind of go with it. And so one of the themes I noticed from some of the images that I was showing from my research was he's leaping, shooting, and charging up his energy right here. And so obviously the pose doesn't look that good from this angle. It's not so great from this. It looks stiff and awkward, but from this angle, I don't know what it is, but that just looks a lot better. I'm not a fan of having characters' backs to the viewer. I typically like to have their torso, because this is kind of like what's iconic, this side. But regardless, he's not a huge... he's not really a main character that I'd worry about being visible necessarily, but just as a general rule, that's something to mention. So this would be okay. I think that looks pretty sick. So that's just one pose that I'll show off here. So I'm going to speed up the process here. I also got some tack out, because one of the other ways that I achieve some interesting poses I found is detaching the head and resting it on some tack, because sometimes, as we can see, Marvel Legends heads don't look up. So we'll take off that head, and I think I'm going to go with one of those poses I saw on the computer. Even sped up, this process takes a long time. It's not a time lapse necessarily, but it's as fast as I could speed the clip up, and it still takes a decent amount of time. And that just goes to say, take your time when posing the figure. Make sure you're using all the joints right. Get the angles right. I mean, it's ultimately, it's not a race to get the pose done quick. You want to have it looking right, and sometimes that just takes a little bit of time. So really think about what you're going for, and almost feel the pose that he's doing and how the character would move to get into that position. And I want to restate that you want to make sure that while you're posing the figure, you have it kind of in a perspective where you know it's going to be viewed. Like, you know that the angle is going to be consistent. So pose it with its, like, I want to say the perspective that you're going to maintain the figure at, right? So don't change it up. Like, you don't want to pose it while looking at it one way and then put it on the shelf while looking at another. That's really important as well. I didn't want to show you guys the whole thing, because this is going to be another video. Just wanted to showcase how I have him up on the shelf in the same perspective that I was posing him off the shelf. Like I said, he's not facing forward or he'd look like this, which doesn't look very good. Again, all the perspective is just really important. So there's kind of a view of him. But you'll see the rest of this in another video that I'm working on right now. So make sure, of course, you guys stay tuned. But that's Bishop on the shelf. So we'll move on to another figure. Okay, so here's another character that I'm going to be posing. Just got him in the mail from my X-Men villains. One thing I noticed right away were these. They're not bad, right? Like, they're not terrible. And they could be a lot worse. I like how they rotate and such like that. But, and so you can interchange them. But the permanent positioning just isn't really ideal for me. And I have something that I could use, I think. I'm going to try this on camera to see if it works. So you guys can see as well. If I can switch them out, and so they'll come out like here. I have some more floral wire. I'll do the smaller piece. All right. So here it is. Okay, I don't know what gauge of wire this is, but I think this will slide into here and fill it up. All right. And not as good as I had hoped. So let me try the other side maybe. I could super glue this with ease, but it's still a little too loose, so dang it. I'm gonna try this. Super long one. Yeah, no, okay. So that's a no-go. Nonetheless, I have some other tricks up my sleeve. That was just something I was thinking of trying. But anyway, I'll just take these out real quick and we'll figure out where to place them later. That's another thing I like to do with imports as well. You take off like hands and you just pose the figure up, and then you'll be able to add the other stuff in later, kind of, and lock everything in place. So, so again, I like to take the time, get to know the figure, once again, reiterating that. And then, so for this figures, for instance, to bring the camera along, we're gonna go over to the X-Men display, or X-Men villains display, and say, okay, so where is this gonna go? I don't wanna put it here because, well, he's red, and that's red, like that it would just be a blur of red. So he's gonna go right over here, and I'm gonna fix Juggernaut's pose to be running, right? And I'm gonna have him leaping out. I think that would look good to add some explosiveness. You don't wanna have too many people just standing where the display looks very still. And so anyway, with that being said, he's gonna be leaping outward. And I'm also gonna change his pose to be running as well. So anyway, we're gonna get back and I'll show you guys how I'm actually going to pose this figure. I figured I'd bring back the old time lapses that I would do when I would be posing my figures, just to show how long this process can actually take, and how painstaking it can be. But you can see here, I tried out one pose of him leaping out. I like it, and I might even switch it out to this eventually, but it just wasn't as explosive or like kind of exploding outward as much. It didn't convey that energy that I wanted as much, so I'm going to go ahead and change it up again. But still, that's the process, is trial and error, and so I went back to this pose that I was particularly fond of after reviewing some images. But here, again, I quickly realized that it is, in fact, too tall. I didn't like how he compared against Magneto. So, yeah, I'm going to have to change this again. But you did notice, too, that I didn't have the wires on while I was posing him over in that area. I found when you're really trying to pose a figure and things fall off, it just becomes really frustrating. So that's just another little tip. Don't put those on at the end, and it'll be a better posing experience. And in this last clip, I'm just finalizing this pose and making sure that the height is correct. Again, please note how long this is taking. This is a sped up time lapse. So just keep that in mind. I'm really just trying to demonstrate how long some of my poses take. So it doesn't just come easily. It's just like drawing a picture, right? It's an artistic form. And so here he is, finally done. and we're going to go ahead and find a place for him in the display. So here I'm trying to show how I actually put the figure up on its stand. This time I'm not using a time lapse because I wasn't using the hanger stands. Instead, I just want to show this process of how I kind of place them in, and I don't know. I just felt like showing this off would be beneficial in some way. And again, if there's that, the reason I move those figures too is because if you're putting someone behind, it just helps remove the risk of knocking more figures over than necessary. But some figures do need to stay there. And I'm also going to end up putting Juggernaut back in a more dynamic pose to round out this display because I removed him. So there he is. It does kind of cover up Omega Red, but it doesn't really bother me, I guess. But yeah, Omega Red looks cool from that angle. You can see him just fine. And it's just the straight on can be a little bit, he can be buried, but I don't find him being a big enough character where that really bothers me. But when I do see him, he's good. And I just pointed out there that the right side, the viewer's right side, I should say, is now a little not as filled. So when I get another character, I'm going to end up putting them on the right side there to even out the display. I found this helpful. It was only 2 figures in a shorter video, but I'm trying to produce some shorter videos where I'm just throwing out some tips and tricks for you guys. Hopefully this works. So I got another video. I'm going to show all the stands I use, including my hanger stands and all the everything in between, from my custom made to Mezco stands, and how I use them and who they're for and all that good stuff. Another popular comment request that I get. So anyway, as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. Make sure you leave a comment of other things that you would like me to make these shorter videos on. But yeah, stay tuned. Got more coming, especially an X-Men video. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching, and make sure you keep doing cool stuff with your toys.